What if I told you the fate of empires wasn't only decided by kings or generals, but by the ordinary soldier, by the men who marched, fought, and endured the weight of armor day after day? Imagine stepping into the sandals of a Roman soldier for just 24 hours. From the moment the sun rises over the camp to the last flicker of the torchlight at night, every action, every order, and every hardship was part of a machine that held one of the greatest empires in history together. This is not just history, it is survival, discipline, and the relentless rhythm of a Roman soldier's life. The day begins before the sun even rises. The camp is quiet, except for the low crackle of dying fires and the occasional murmur of guards on watch. A horn sounds sharp, commanding. In an instant, men stir from their tents. Sleep is a luxury in the Roman army. Discipline comes first. A soldier pushes himself up from the rough ground. The bedding is nothing more than a thin mat. His body aches from the previous day's march, but there's no time to linger. The first task is simple but symbolic: order. Tents are folded, gear is checked, and every item must be in its place. The Roman army was not just a fighting force, it was an engine of organization. To be a soldier was to live in a world of rules where every moment had purpose. Now comes the armor. Piece by piece, the soldier transforms. First, the tunic, rough but functional. Then the leather straps that hold the larica segmentata bands of iron plates that wrap tightly around his torso. It is heavy, restrictive, and unforgiving in the summer heat. On his left arm, the shield rectangular, curved, taller than his chest. Painted with the insignia of his legion, it is both weapon and identity. His right hand grips the gladius, the short Roman sword designed for stabbing in the crush of close combat. Beside it hangs the pilum, the throwing spear that could bend on impact, preventing the enemy from throwing it back. Together, this gear weighs over 30 kilograms. For the modern mind, it seems unbearable. For the Roman soldier, it was simply the cost of survival. The sun rises, and with it, the drills begin. Roman soldiers did not wait for battle to train, they lived in constant preparation. Formations are called out by centurions, voices echoing across the camp. The men fall into line instantly, shields locking, spears extending. They march forward, step after step, the sound of iron striking earth in perfect rhythm. Then come the weapons. Soldiers thrust their wooden training swords at posts driven into the ground, practicing strikes until their arms burn. They are taught not to slash wildly, but to stab efficient, precise, deadly. A slash might wound. A stab could end a fight in seconds. The Roman belief was simple. Discipline and practice turn ordinary men into an unstoppable force. After drills, the soldiers gather for their meal. Breakfast is not lavish. A portion of bread, sometimes dipped in watered wine. Dried fruit or olives if supplies allow. Protein comes rarely salted pork or beans when the logistics of the empire deliver. Food is fuel, not pleasure. Every soldier carries part of the burden of supply, with rations packed and prepared for days of marching. The empire's roads carried not only armies, but also the lifeline that kept them moving. For a Roman soldier, hunger was a companion as familiar as his sword. By late morning, the order is given, march. Camps were temporary by design. The Roman army was always on the move, and with each new day came the possibility of covering 20 miles or more. The column stretches for as far as the eye can see. Soldiers march in formation, carrying not only their weapons, but also their personal packs tools, stakes for camp walls, cooking pots, even grinding stones for wheat. Each man is a fighter, but also a laborer, an engineer, and a builder. The march is relentless. Sun beats down, sweat soaks through tunics, armor digs into shoulders. but the pace does not falter. To march was to conquer distance, and to conquer distance was to conquer nations. Not every march is peaceful. Scouts return with news enemy forces spotted in the distance. The horn sounds again, sharper this time. The column halts. Orders ripple down the line. Shields are raised, pala are prepared. The soldiers know the drill. This is not chaos, it is design. In minutes, the column transforms into a wall of shields and spears, the legendary Roman formation. The enemy shouts across the field. War cries echo, weapons clash against shields, but the Romans remain silent. Their discipline is their weapon. The moment comes. A roar, a charge, the ground trembling beneath rushing feet. The Romans do not break. At the last instant, pila fly through the air. Spears crash into enemy shields, bending, shattering, sowing confusion. And then, the wall of shields surges forward. The clash is brutal. Shield slam, sword stab. There is no room for wide movements, just thrust, step, push. Every man depends on the one beside him. Alone, he would be lost. Together, they are a machine of war. When the dust settles, silence returns. The battlefield is littered with broken weapons and abandoned gear. The enemy has retreated or been destroyed. For the soldiers, victory is not celebration. It is exhaustion, relief, and preparation for what comes next. Wounds are tended, formations are checked, and orders are given to move once more. There is no pause in the life of a Roman soldier. Even after battle, duty continues. As the sun dips low, the army halts. It is time to build camp. This too is part of the discipline. Every soldier has a task: digging ditches, raising palisades, driving stakes. A Roman camp is not just a resting place. It is a fortress, constructed in hours, designed to withstand surprise attacks. Only once the camp is secure do the soldiers settle. Fires are lit, meals prepared. Bread, porridge, sometimes meat if fortune favors. Men gather in small groups, eating, talking, repairing armor. It is here, around the fire, that the soldier's humanity shines through. Songs are sung, stories shared, dice games played. For a few hours, the weight of empire lifts, and they are simply men, far from home, bound together by survival. But not all rest. The night is divided into watches, and soldiers take turns standing guard at the edges of camp. The night air is cold, and silence carries every sound. The soldier grips his spear, eyes scanning the dark horizon, ears straining for the faintest movement. A Roman soldier cannot afford to trust sleep. The empire stretches far, but enemies are never distant. The watch is both burden and honor, a reminder that even in rest, the army never truly sleeps. At last, the camp quiets. Torches flicker low. The soldier lies on his mat, armor stacked neatly beside him, sword within reach. He thinks of the day, the march, the clash, the endless tasks. He thinks of home, a family far away, of the promises made by commanders that their service brings glory not just to Rome, but to themselves. For now, glory feels heavy, like the armor that waits for morning. But he closes his eyes, knowing the cycle will begin again at dawn. And so ends one day, just 24 hours in the life of a Roman soldier. But multiply this by months, years, even decades, and you see the true strength of Rome, not in marble palaces or golden treasures, but in the discipline of men who endured hunger, fatigue, fear, and pain, and still marched on. Empires rise through the will of their soldiers, and though centuries have passed, the echoes of their boots still thunder through history, reminding us that the power of Rome was carried not only by emperors and generals, but by the countless men who lived, fought, and survived one day at a time.